I'm 1 meter 77 tall, with fair skin and long legs. I'm beautiful. And you're saying I'm not right for you. That makes no sense. She confessed her feelings to me while putting one foot on a chair. But focused on my painting, I rejected her right on the spot. Just before this, I was in a huge hurry on my way to a blind date that my mother had set up for me. But when I opened my eyes again, I found myself sprawled out on the field of Vincent High School. Jiangzi, hey, you're finally waking up. You gave me quite a scare. Man, if you hadn't woken up, I would have called an ambulance right away. Hey man, you good? A short-haired boy, holding a soccer ball, approached me with a genuinely apologetic look on his face. Hey, how do you even aim seriously? Are you blind or what? Jiangzi yelled in rage without a single shred of fear at the guy who was easily a head taller than him. The short-haired boy bowed slightly with an even more sincere apology. I'm really sorry. As more and more onlookers gathered around us, I slowly got up from the ground. I shook my head at the short-haired boy to indicate that I was fine, and I walked away calling out to Jiangzi. Since classes had just ended, tons of classmates were hanging out in the hallways, joking around and causing a constant ruckus. But when two tall girls walked out of the classroom, the noisy hallway suddenly went dead silent. The gazes of countless boys froze on a girl by the name of Sui Yuan. She was the girl of their dreams, and public enemy number one for the girls. At that exact moment, a long-haired girl rushed down the stairs. And guess what? I just saw that Shangzi got hit by a ball, but it looks like he's fine. What a shame, I actually wanted to go help him. Sui Yuan, who was nearby, let out an almost imperceptible sigh of relief upon hearing that. She looked at Liu Yao next to her and said, Yao, I can't go to the bathroom with you today. Inside classroom 5 for the third-year student, in the very back row next to the window, I was sitting there flipping through my books. In my previous life, even though I had scored 287 points, unfortunately, my grades in general subjects dragged me down, and I wasn't able to get into the art academy, the most prestigious one in the country, the one I had dreamed of so much. The bell rang and the chatter in the classroom quieted down. But this calm didn't even last a few seconds, broken by a girl who burst into the room. Seeing this tall and beautiful girl, the boys showed 70% surprise and 30% jealousy, while the girls in the class radiated pure hostility. Sui Yuan completely ignored everyone's stares. She trotted over to me and placed a plastic bag on my desk, locking my gaze with her beautiful eyes. I asked, puzzled, what's this then? Why are you giving this to me? Her eyes darted away from mine, and pointing at the bag I was holding, she said, some medicine to reduce the swelling. With that, she turned to leave, without even giving me a chance to refuse. And it's true, I used to never accept anything from a girl. So I quickly called out to her, Sui Yuan, thanks. Hearing me, she froze, completely convinced that I wanted to give her medicine right back. She thought to herself, if only I had run away faster, Sui Yuan. How can you be so clumsy at the crucial moment? But the next second, I waved the plastic bag in my hand and said, thank you. Happiness hit so suddenly that Sui Yuan stood there, dazed for a moment. And as it registered, she flashed a smile as radiant as a twilight rose. At dusk, did this mean that the distance separating her from Shangzi had just shortened by a step? Young lady, you're not from our class. Hello, teacher. I just came to borrow something from a classmate. I'm leaving right away. Sui Yuan headed back to her own classroom completely overjoyed. 45 minutes later, after classes ended, I got up and went to the school's art studio. The art students, during the last 2 hours of the morning and afternoon, are required to be in the studio. 10 minutes later, the art teacher Ms. Liu made her entrance and she began handing out the sketching exercises, giving a few tips to the students from time to time. But when Ms. Liu approached Yang Jin, she was left completely speechless. Most of the students hadn't even finished their first sketch yet, but Yang Jin had already finished 2 of them. And on top of that, the visual rendering was simply perfect. Even knowing that Yang Jin had an immense talent for art, this was downright mind-blowing. He was a true monster. Seeing Ms. Liu's look of amazement, I made up an excuse. Teacher Liu, I had already drawn these 2 sketches before. Hearing this, Ms. Liu felt a bit relieved, but she still remained blown away by the artistic talent he had just shown. At nightfall, since I was a commuter student in the art track, I could ask to be excused from evening self-study. It was much more efficient to review at home, rather than in class, where people stared at me like a curious beast. Arriving at my house, I unzipped my backpack to take out my exercise book. But first, I touched a plastic bag, so I pulled the medicine out from inside, and I sprayed a bit of it on my forehead. A cooling sensation spread from the corner of my forehead. One morning, Sui Yuan was pacing back and forth in front of the shop at the school entrance, casting a glance into the distance from time to time. Suddenly, she pulled a small mirror from her pocket to slightly fix her shiny hair and rushed toward the school gate. Yang Jin, what a coincidence. I bump into you right as I get to school. Sui Yuan faked a look of surprise and popped up in front of me. Greeting me, I looked at Sui Yuan, who had just appeared, her chest gently heaving after running. I nodded slightly. Before this, she had already tried to trigger a few encounters with Yang Jin, but without much success. He simply paid absolutely no attention to her. But yesterday, Yang Jin accepted the anti-inflammatory medicine she gave him, and that gave her a crazy boost of confidence. Seeing Youngjin, who seemed so distant, with strangers, Sui Yuan didn't get discouraged and took the initiative to ask, "How is your forehead doing now?" Hearing her, I slowed my pace and looked at Sui Yuan by my side. I thanked her. "Thanks to the anti-inflammatory medicine you gave me, it's really doing a lot better." Sui Yuan's large, bright almond-shaped eyes widened a little bit. She clearly didn't expect him to actually use the medicine she had given him. "No, that's great. Youngjin, you arrived so early. You surely haven't eaten breakfast, right?" "No. I actually bought way too much of it. Here, take the strawberry tart." "No thanks. I already ate breakfast at home." "No big deal. Keep it for recess." Saying this, she directly shoved the strawberry tart into my hand. "I'm off to class, see ya." With that, she ran toward the classroom building without looking back. Sui Yuan arrived in class, the corners of her eyes slightly crinkled by a smile. She looked out the window with a distracted air. Yesterday it was the anti-inflammatory medicine. Today it's the tart. Just like that, the connection between her and Young Jin will only deepen. The boys in the class threw stealthy little glances at her from time to time, but they all noticed that the campus beauty Sui seemed even more radiant today than usual. After 2 hours of class, it was the long recess. All the students went to the courtyard to run as usual. 5 minutes later, they had finished running. "I'm exhausted." "ID, hey Shangzi, let's go." "Xiaobao, aren't you buying any water?" "ID, it's my treat." "ID, vertical bar. Hey, behind them." ID Sui Yuan, holding onto Liu Yao's arm, followed them as well. ID pipe, and they went to the small shop together. ID, Shangzi, what do you want to drink? "I'd give me a can of cola." "All right, here you go." ID, I took the can of cola. ID that Shangzi had bought for me. ID vertical bar leaning against the wall. ID right next to the entrance of the small shop. ID I opened the can with one hand and started drinking. ID vertical bar inside the shop. ID Sui Yuan seemed to be choosing. ID an ice cream from the freezer. ID but her gaze remained fixed on. ID Young Jin outside. ID staring at him is enough. "Are you going to eat your ice cream or what?" ID seeing Sui Yuan distracted, Liu Yao teased her about it. ID then Sui Yuan snapped out of it. ID, this flavor, I tried it yesterday, it's really delicious. ID vertical bar saying this. ID she pulled from her pocket. ID a 10 yuan bill and handed it to Liu Yao with the ice cream. ID, and it's my treat today. ID, so could you go pay? "I'd good thing you still have a conscience." ID, I accept but really reluctantly. Liu Yao. ID vertical bar sighed softly. ID took the ice cream and headed to the counter. ID pipe then. ID Sui Yuan quickly pulled her phone out of her pocket. ID vertical bar opened the camera app and pointed. ID the lens outside. ID at Yang Jin. ID she was ready to take a nice photo of him. ID but just as she pressed the shutter. ID I turned my gaze toward her. ID Sui Yuan's mind went completely blank. ID pipe instantly. ID the phone was still pointed at Young Jin. ID why is he looking at me again? Why in theory? ID I shouldn't look nervous or panicked. ID pipe normally. ID I don't like it when people take photos of me secretly. ID but I don't know why. ID seeing that it was Sui Yuan taking my picture. ID I felt a tiny spark of joy deep inside me. ID Sui Yuan. ID was still looking for a way out of this awkward ID situation when she noticed that ID Youngjin was approaching her. She was ID completely panicked. ID she quickly slipped the phone into her pocket. ID pretending as if nothing had happened. ID seeing the panic on her face. ID I smiled inwardly. ID it's much better this way. What were you doing? I approached. ID Sui Yuan knowing the answer full well. ID me. It looks like I got some dust in my eye. ID so I was looking at my screen. ID Sui Yuan didn't know at all if her excuse held water. ID her hands were sweaty with anxiety. Until oh really I thought you were taking a photo of me secretly. ID vertical bar hearing this. ID Sui Yuan's fair cheeks flushed slightly. ID lowered her head. ID vertical bar a bit guiltily. ID yeah but no, how could that be possible? ID I knew perfectly well that she was lying. ID her slight nervousness didn't fool anyone. ID but I didn't say anything. ID I just walked right past her. ID pipe and went to catch up with IDX Yangzi. She watched my back as I walked away. ID and let out a huge sigh of relief. ID then she quickly pulled her phone out of her ID pocket, looked at it closely and whispered, ID how handsome he is. ID vertical bar class 8 of 3rd year Liu Yao. ID pipe looking totally carefree while ID vertical bar eating her green salad and looking at her phone. ID suddenly seemed to see something. ID she nudged Sui Yuan who was sitting next to her with her elbow. ID dam Xiao Yuan take a look at the confession wall on Tieba. ID they posted another photo of Yang Jin. ID vertical bar hearing this. ID Sui Yuan startled all of a sudden. She leaned toward Liu. ID pipe Yao. It was the screenshot of a conversation. ID vertical bar where you could see Yang ID Jin sitting and eating in the cafeteria. Below it there were several comments. Young. ID Jin really knows how to attract attention. ID oh boy I need to hurry up otherwise some nasty ID pest is going to end up stealing him from us one of these days. ID 5 minutes later Sui Yuan was standing there. ID panning at the entrance of the cafeteria. ID her arrival attracted a lot of looks. But the next instant her delicate face with its perfect oval shape showed a look of disappointment. That was because Yang Jin's figure had already completely disappeared. In the hallway, Sui Yuan was walking with a distracted air when suddenly, bam bam bam, she accidentally bumped into someone. Recognizing the face of the other person, she froze, and her expression changed from disappointment to surprise. She whispered, Yang Jin. Even though at that moment, my face showed absolutely no emotion. Deep down, I couldn't help but grumble. How can anyone be so scatterbrained? Walking up the stairs without even looking where they're stepping? Then, Sui Yuan suddenly reached out both hands to pat my chest, asking with concern, are you okay? No. Did you hurt yourself when we bumped? Are you alright? No. Well, so you can get nervous too, huh? I didn't know you were this cute. Hearing the word cute, I felt a strange, rather unusual feeling. So to change the subject, I flipped the question she had just asked right back at her. And you, are you alright? Just as Sui Yuan was about to say she was fine, she seemed to remember something and changed her mind. She turned around and said, actually yes, something did happen to me. In reality, I had just been polite to hide my nervousness, but I didn't expect at all that she really had a problem. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Seeing my confused look, Sui Yuan raised her left hand. It was soft and delicate and rubbed her forehead. With eyes full of pity, she said, my forehead hurts a little. I was about to speak, but she beat me to it. Just kidding. Hey, I'm doing perfectly fine. In the next second, Sui Yuan's clear laughter echoed beside me. I snapped back to my senses and said coldly, how annoying. Then I turned around and walked down the stairs. When my back was turned, Sui Yuan smothered a little chuckle. Then completely overjoyed, she walked up toward her classroom. Today at the campus library, I was sitting in an isolated corner, looking at the strawberry tart I was holding in my hand, which looked delicious. In my mind, that delicate face involuntarily appeared. So close, just at the moment when Sui Yuan had approached, my heart had raced inexplicably, a sensation I had never experienced before. I shook my head to chase the thought away. I took a spoonful of the strawberry tart and brought it to my mouth. The first thing I felt was sweetness, very, very sweet. In the evening when I got home, I received a warm welcome from my mother. Xiaojin, Mom, is the school cafeteria really that bad? It looks like your face has slimmed down. And to think that this morning when you left, you still had nice little chubby cheeks. Come on, Mom. Made you some braised pork trotters. Mom, are you sure you're the one who cooked them? Didn't you buy them on the way instead, Mom? Ah, you noticed. Mom wanted to make them herself, but the recipe for braised pork trotters is really way too complicated. After responding quickly and gobbling down my dinner, I ran to my painting studio. After casting a glance at the studio that contained my entire youth, I sat down in front of the easel. Shortly after, the sound of the pencil scratching the canvas filled the silence of the studio. 10 minutes later, a slight blush swept across my pale face. On the paper in front of me, there was a girl with a slender silhouette. I took a deep breath, shook my head, and then in a great hurry, I tucked the drawing away in a drawer and left the studio. The next morning at 6 a.m., I arrived at school as usual. What a coincidence. At the school entrance, I ran into Sui Yuan again. Today, she was still wearing her blue uniform. You are always so lovely. What a coincidence we bump into each other again. I looked at her out of the corner of my eye, then I quickly looked away. I nodded slightly by way of greeting. Near the classroom building, Sui Yuan pulled a pretty little white bottle from her bag. I accidentally grabbed an extra yogurt today. Here, this is for you, she said, shoving it directly into my hand. Then with a beaming smile, she added, see ya, and she dashed off toward the building. By the time I reacted, she had already disappeared. I cracked a smile, and in a great mood, I headed toward the right staircase. Yesterday, she gives me a cake, today a yogurt. What is she up to, seriously? Or maybe it's on QQ. On QQ. Hardly had Yang Jin sat down in classroom 5 for the third-year students when Xiangzi came running in, looking completely panicked. Yang Jin, hey, did you see the confession wall on QQ? He pulled up a chair and sat down next to him with a super excited expression. I never look at the QQ confession wall, and even less at other people's gossip. I don't even go on QQ often, since I get a ton of messages every day with that unbearable notification sound. What a shame. Hey, let me tell you, something huge happened yesterday. Want me to tell you? Xiangzi said, on purpose to drag out the suspense. If you don't want to tell me, it's no big deal. I still have vocabulary to review. I replied dryly, not playing along. Alright, fine. I'll spill the beans. Zhu Bowen, you know. The guy who threw the ball right at your face. The other day, yesterday, Sui Yuan. She grabbed some scissors and burst into the second-year classroom to settle the score with that guy. They say she almost stabbed Zhu Bowen, but in the end, she left him alone and took her anger out on his soccer ball instead. But honestly, what a waste of a beautiful soccer ball. Popped just like that. Even if the rumor was exaggerated deep down, she felt an inexplicable joy. In classroom 8 for the third-year students, someone said, do you want to go to the restroom? Yeah, I'll go with you. Okay. I don't want to. Liu Yao shook her head. But Sui Yuan acted as if she hadn't heard a thing. She stood up and got ready to head out. No, you're the one who wants to go. Seeing the pretty face of Sui Yuan, who couldn't hide her thoughts. Liu Yao felt helpless. Yes, she's the one who wants to. Sui Yuan smiled, took her arm, and they walked out of the classroom. Sui Yuan walked super fast the whole way, until she passed in front of the door of classroom 5 for the third-year students, where she suddenly slowed down. Liu Yao looked at the blissful smile of her friend and shook her head slightly, thinking, completely head over heels in love. Oh, what is that blondie doing blocking the way? Sui Yuan pursed her lips in displeasure, because Yang Jin was being blocked by a blonde boy. Inside the classroom, I turned my head and looked toward the hallway. The moment my eyes met the clear gaze of Sui Yuan, she immediately looked away, hesitating, visibly a bit nervous. I looked at Xiangzi next to me and said in a calm tone, "Didn't you say you were going to the restroom? Come on, let's go." "Hey, what's up? A second ago you said no. Why did you change your mind all of a sudden?" "No." Sui Yuan, all nervous in front of the classroom, thought to herself, why am I tensing up like this? I'm just passing by to go to the restroom. But when she stole another glance toward the classroom, she froze. No, how come he actually came out? Yet he completely ignored her. Then he brushed right past Sui Yuan. Xiao Yuan Tua Liu Yao gently shook Sui Yuan's arm. Sui Yuan snapped out of it. Seeing me on the point of leaving, she turned around quickly and called out to me. I stopped for a moment. I turned around and asked in a calm tone, "What is it then? Is there a problem?" Meeting my indifferent gaze, Sui Yuan was left speechless for a moment. Finally, she just managed to whisper, "Hello?" At first I was surprised. Then I gave a slight nod. The atmosphere turned awkward for a split second. So to break the ice, Sui Yuan also greeted Xiangzi, who was right next to me. Xiangzi flashed her a smile and nodded. Then he gave me a nudge with his elbow, urging me to say something. I looked at Xiangzi beside me. "Didn't you say you were going to the restroom?" Saying that, I headed straight for the stairs. Right after that, Xiangzi gave an apologetic smile to Sui Yuan and caught up with me. "Hey bro, I'm not trying to lecture you, but Sui Yuan, to avenge you, she literally popped Zhu Bowen's ball. Even if you don't plan on thanking her, you could at least say a word to her. It's so obvious she has a crush on you. Just go to the restroom already, damn it. Why do you have to be so annoying?" I snapped with a bit of impatience. Xiangzi muttered something under his breath, looking completely done, and walked into the south restroom. After watching him go in, I turned around and walked up the stairs. Sui Yuan was standing on the stairs. Today her bright eyes, which usually had a touch of flirtatiousness, seemed completely blank, as if she was deep in thought. Sui Yuan turned her head and saw that Yang Jin, without her even noticing, was already standing right next to her. "I heard that yesterday. You grabbed some scissors, burst into the second-year classroom and popped the ball of that guy, Zhu Bowen. You already know about that." In the next second, she stared at me and in a very soft voice blurted out, "In reality, I'm actually very gentle yesterday. I just wanted to get revenge for Yang Jin, but I don't know which idiot saw me. Someone posted it on the confession wall, and the rumor just blew completely out of proportion." Back in the classroom, the phrase that Sui Yuan had just uttered, "You're a really good person," kept echoing in my mind. My lips curled into a smile despite myself. On Sunday, under the neon lights of the shops, Sui Yuan was walking arm in arm with Liu Yao, going from one clothing store to another. "What do you think of this? Do you think Yang Jin will like it?" "Yeah, sure." Liu Yao had a slightly awkward look on her face. "Look, when it comes to love, if you just ask Yang Jin out and ask for his opinion, you'll know for sure. But I already sent him a friend request on QQQ and he still hasn't accepted it." "Xiao Yao, why do you think?" Liu Yao sighed. She had just thrown that comment out there. She never expected that Sui Yuan would take it so seriously. "Xiao Yao, why aren't you saying anything?" "Hey, if your tooth hurts that bad, I can take you to the dentist first." "It's nothing. It's just that I don't really want to talk to you right now." "Girl, you are truly a hopeless case." A new week began and I went right back to my usual routine, leaving for school at 6 a.m., returning home at 6 p.m. My days were pretty well filled. The only downside was that Sui Yuan seemed to have vanished into thin air these past few days. We hadn't crossed paths even once. Out of nowhere before, she would always pop up in front of me, and now suddenly, nothing at all. It left me a bit puzzled. In class 8 of the third-year students, Sui Yuan had been staring blankly out the window for the past few minutes before letting out a dejected sigh. "Tell me, are you sure your method is going to work?" "Don't worry, I promise you it works. I read a romance novel not long ago that gives tons of dating techniques to make boys fall for you, and I've mastered them perfectly. Say what if there's a chance that he doesn't like me at all? Tell me. In that case, this famous technique of play hard to get, what good would it even do?" Liu Yao kept silent upon hearing that. After all, in her mind, with a girl as gorgeous as Xiao Yuan, no boy could possibly resist her. It's simply impossible. I still think it's better to take the initiative. Having control in your own hands is much safer. In the third year, PE classes are optional. I took advantage of this to stay in class, to solve some exercises. 2 minutes later, Xiangzi suddenly burst into the room. He grabbed me and dragged me toward the courtyard. As we passed by class 8 of the third year, I slowed my pace a little. I stole a glance inside. Where is she? Could she also have PE at this hour? No. Day after day. Don't just always stand or sit there. Go out for a walk to relax a bit, don't you think? By my side. Jiangzi excitedly pointed at the badminton court and shouted toward a slender silhouette. However, before I could even reply, Sui Yuan had already spotted me from outside the court. She came running over quickly. Yangjin, do you have PE right now too? Sui Yuan barely hid her expression. Her eyes crinkled, showing a joyful surprise. I looked at her, my hands slightly sweaty while my face remained just as cold and impassive as usual, even though deep down I was really happy. Would you like to come play badminton with us? Asked Sui Yuan, full of hope. I stayed silent for a moment. Then I shook my head and replied, I don't know how to play. Hearing this, Sui Yuan showed no disappointment. On the contrary, she smiled and said, it's okay, I can teach you. Hearing that, Xiangzi, who was right next to me, immediately pushed me toward the badminton court. What a joke. What do you mean? Letting her personally teach you how to play badminton? That's something many boys would dream of without ever getting it. Sui Wen, coming up from behind, discreetly gave a thumbs up in the air to Xiangzi. Xiao Yuan, you've been playing for so long. Aren't you tired? Take a little rest. Wow, you are a total traitor for love. Liu Yao gently tapped her forehead and then handed over the racket she was holding. Take the racket. Sui Yuan gave me her racket while she used Liu Yao's instead. I grabbed the badminton racket, weighed it 2 or 3 times. First impression, it was really super light. Looking at my hand, she said, we'll start with how to hold the racket. Sui Yuan very quickly went into teacher mode. 10 minutes later, I had already caught on to pretty much the basic techniques of badminton. Next, we moved on to rallies, even though Sui Yuan always sent the shuttlecock back to me, by placing each shot where it was easiest so that I could return it without any problem. At that moment, I didn't know if Sui Yuan had missed her shot on purpose or by accident, but she let a shuttlecock that I returned pass right by her. You're getting better and better, she said with a big radiant smile. Hearing this, I showed a bit of embarrassment, which rarely happens to me. Seeing this, Sui Yuan suddenly let out a little chuckle. Xiao Yao, come play with Yang Jin for a bit, I'm going to the restroom. Before leaving, she made sure to remind Liu Yao, when you play, go easy on him so that he can return more shots. 5 minutes later, Sui Yuan came back with a pack of mineral water. Come drink some water and rest for a moment. I looked at the sweats on Sui Yuan's forehead and the bottle she held in her hand. Suddenly, as if I had understood something at that exact instant, my heart felt like it received an electric shock. A huge shiver ran through my whole body. Sui Yuan approached with a radiant smile and handed me a bottle of water. Thanks. I took the mineral water and sat down on the rest bench. I raised my head and took a big gulp, emptying almost half the bottle. Thanks. She sat down next to me quite naturally, with her own water bottle. She imitated my way of drinking in big gulps. But the very next second, it went down the wrong pipe, and she bent over coughing several times in a row. Hey, all of a sudden, don't drink so fast, I said with a slight tone of reproach. A few seconds later, she gathered her courage and turned her head to look at me. Yang Jin, why didn't you accept my request on QQ? Too many messages, I uninstalled it. Hand me your phone. Let's add each other on WeChat. A minute later, Sui Yuan stood there clutching her phone to her chest, smiling. Foolishly, like a flower that suddenly receives rain. She became completely radiant. After that, the two of us went onto the court to play badminton until the end of the class. Sui Yuan looked like she hadn't had enough. Why is it already over? I haven't even gotten tired of it yet. Here is your racket, I said, crossing the net to hand her the racket I had in my hand. What do you think of badminton? It's fun, isn't it? Asked Sui Yuan with a big smile. It's not bad? Yeah, sure, I replied sincerely. Yes, in my previous life, I never had any free time to do sports. But this time playing badminton with Sui Yuan, I found it really super nice. Obviously, it also depends a bit on the person you're playing with. Hearing my response, Sui Yuan blinked her eyes. Yeah, so if you want to play again one of these days, just give me a call. For the rest of the day, Sui Yuan remained in an excellent mood. Her delicate face showed a radiant smile the entire time, like a little enchanted fairy. What should I write in my first message? To Yang Jin to make a deep impression on him, she asked. Liu Yao said after thinking for a few seconds. Her eyes shining, she said, just tell him directly how you feel. He won't forget you for sure. Wouldn't that be a bit too much? Thanks. What if I scare him? Replied Sui Yuan with an embarrassed look. But deep down she was gloating and couldn't hide her smile. The idea was really good, but if my confession fails, won't we lose? Even our friendship? It's better if I think about it on my own. Sui Yuan rested her chin in her hands, her clear eyes lost in thought. In the evening after her dance class, Sui Yuan returned home a bit after 10 o'clock. After taking her shower, she sat down on the couch and called out into the air. Sui Yuan. At that same instant, a little white cat popped up from out of nowhere. It climbed onto her lap. Hey Sui Yuan. Today I managed to get Yang Jin's WeChat. Sui Yuan lifted the cat with a slight smile on her lips. In reality, she has a complete crush on Yang Jin, and this little cat, so cute, also has a very strong connection to all of this. Before, Yang Jin was the one taking care of it. At that time, his face would light up with such a tender smile, so different from his icy attitude at school. Naturally, it piqued her curiosity. so she tried to get closer to Youngjin, but he always kept his stone face and ignored her completely, without a doubt. This gently woke up her competitive spirit. Perhaps because no boy had ever rejected her up until then. A day later, she discovered to her amazement that she had truly grown attached to him. One day, the little cat was about to get chased out of the park by others, and since Youngjin wasn't around, she was the one who adopted it. Since that day, she never found the right opportunity to talk to Youngjin about this cat story, so she ended up raising it all by herself. Back to the present. Today, Suyun gently stroked the cat's chin. Good night. At 6:30 a.m., I arrived at school as usual, but that slender silhouette wasn't there yet. I couldn't help but feel a tiny prick of disappointment. Maybe tomorrow I'll arrive 15 minutes later, just to see. I shook my head to chase that thought away and walked into the building. In the classroom, I hadn't even sat down yet when I noticed the yogurt and bread placed on my desk. Usually when I found this kind of thing, I would give it directly to the classmate in front of me. However, as I grabbed the yogurt, I saw a little post-it note stuck to the back. Today, I brought way too much breakfast by accident, so I'm leaving it for you. Don't let it go to waste. It looks like I was mistaken. It wasn't Sui Yuan who was late, it was me who had arrived too early. Youngjin suddenly felt in an excellent mood. The disappointment I had felt at the school entrance completely evaporated. I wonder if Youngjin drank the yogurt I gave him. Sui Yuan rested her chin on her white hand, looking dreamily out the window. Sui Yuan, right now you really look like a girl who's completely, hopelessly in love. Lu Yao told her teasingly. What are you staring at like that? In the hallway, Youngjin was standing right there, locking eyes with Sui Yuan, who was inside the classroom. They observed each other for a few seconds. Finally, Yang Jin was the first to give in. He looked away and kept walking forward. I'm heading out for a second. Sui Yuan bolted out of the classroom. At the vending machine on the first floor, I lightly tapped the screen and a bottle of water dropped into the retrieval slot. What do you want to drink? Then I turned my head toward Sui Yuan, who was by my side. I'll have the same thing as you. I'll take a bottle of mineral water too. Her face betrayed a slight nervousness. I touched the screen again. Then I handed her the bottle of mineral water that had just dropped from the vending machine. Thanks for the breakfast. Here, this is to thank you for the breakfast. Hey, you're welcome, thanks. Was the yogurt good? Sui Yuan's pale face showed a look of surprise. In a slightly more confident tone, Youngjin nodded lightly and replied, it's not bad. So, do you like today's plain yogurt? Or would you prefer another flavor? Sui Yuan's clear eyes sparkled with curiosity. Plain is just fine. I stayed silent for 2 seconds, then I replied. Then I'll bring you another plain yogurt tomorrow. She exclaimed with joy upon hearing that. Youngjin stopped dead in his tracks and turned to look at her. In his usual teasing tone, he asked, and tomorrow too? Are you going to bring an extra one by accident? Hardly had he finished speaking when Sui Yuan's cheeks flushed red immediately. That was just her excuse to give a yogurt to Youngjin, and she knew very well that he had seen right through it. But to hear him say it in that teasing tone was like having her little lie completely exposed. They walked up from the first to the 5th floor, but today neither of them felt any fatigue. They almost even wanted to keep on walking. Passing in front of class 8 of the 3rd year, I saw that Sui Wen was still following me, so I kindly reminded her. I know I already know. It's my turn for classroom chores today. I'm going through the front door to erase the blackboard. I stole a glance at the blackboard through the window. It was spotless, but I didn't say anything and kept straight on my way. When she realized that the blackboard was way too clean, Sui Wen managed a tight smile while hiding her face, dying of embarrassment. The blackboard really didn't cooperate. During the 3rd and 4th periods, Teacher Lu announced something important. Starting next week, you will be leaving. You will leave outdoors for a 15-day plein air painting session. At the announcement of the news, most of the students in the class were super excited, but deep down, they just wanted to go out and have fun. Painting was just a bonus. That's why they were all in such a frenzy. After lunch, usually I return to class, read a bit, and take a nap. But hardly had I stepped foot in the room when Sui Yuan entered right behind me, completely ignoring the glares from the other girls in the class, and sat down right next to me. Why are you following me like this? I don't know about you, but I need to study. I turned my head to look at the one sticking to me like a shadow and asked her, I'm going to study too. Your classroom has a great atmosphere for working. It's quieter. It's perfect for studying. While saying this, she pulled a book from the huge pile she was carrying and hugged it against her chest. I admit that the classroom is quiet, but as for the study atmosphere, I'll just say those who know. Don't you see that all the girls in the class are staring at us? You lie through your teeth, don't you? I finally gave in and pulled out the mock exam that the math teacher had just handed out, and I got to work, but I felt a bit flustered inside, especially with Sui Yuan sitting right there next to me. She said she was studying, but in reality, she was resting her porcelain chin in her hand and staring intensely at Youngjin. He, who was doing his exam with the utmost seriousness, exuded a cold and elegant aura. His fair skin, his attractive profile, the bridge of his nose. It was truly a feast for the eyes. The next instant, She couldn't help herself, and without even realizing it, she moved her chair a bit closer to Youngjin. As a result, while gently moving her elbow, she inadvertently brushed against Youngjin's arm. That cool and soft sensation made her lower her head in a panic, while opening her book at lightning speed, feigning a perfectly calm expression. A bit nervous, a bit touched. Even though I was highly focused on solving my exercises, I still perceived that soft and delicate contact. I slightly turned my head to look at Sui Yuan, who had a guilty look, but I didn't pay attention to it. When she felt that my gaze finally drifted away, Sui Yuan heaved a sigh of relief, regained her composure, and she just stayed there by his side, silently observing Youngjin. When I finally finished the last problem of the exam, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I moved my wrist, which was a bit numb. Then I turned my head, and what I saw was a delicate face. Suiyun had her eyes closed, her face turned in my direction, as if she had fallen asleep while watching me. There were only a few minutes left before the start of class, and she was still sleeping. So I called her softly. Suiyun raised her head still completely. Drowsy, she rubbed her eyes and said, "I discovered that this desk is super comfortable, really great for sleeping." I had a bunch of question marks over my head. I couldn't understand what she meant by that. Aren't all the desks in the school exactly the same? No. Hey, Youngjin, can you save the seat for me every lunchtime from now on in exchange? I'll bring you your breakfast every day. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. It's almost class time. I need to head back too. See ya, bye. She blurted out joyfully without the slightest hesitation. She walked straight out. You wanted to push me away, but I won't give you the chance now. Not only can I be with Youngjin at noon, but I also have an excuse. I'm perfectly set to bring him breakfast. I am truly way too good. Watching Suiyuan's confident back disappear behind the classroom door, I let out a short chuckle, but it lasted only a brief moment before I returned to my usual cold and distant look. In the blink of an eye, a week went by. During all this time, the frequency with which Suiyuan appeared by my side kept increasing. Little by little, quite a few rumors began to circulate, saying that we were already together. In class 8 of the third-year student Sui, Yuan was wearing a ponytail, exuding a genuine aura of purity. With her chin resting on her hand, she was staring absently out the window. Liu Yao gently nudged Sui Yuan with her elbow. Xiao Yuan stopped daydreaming all the time. You already look like a lucky little housewife. I already am, she replied, while a smile as bright and mesmerizing as a rose at dusk bloomed across her delicate face. In 2 days, it's the National Day holiday. Where do you plan to go? I plan to go to Furong to find Yang Jin. Sui Yuan shot back instantly. Liu Yao was left utterly speechless. Inwardly, she gnashed her teeth, screaming, Yang Jin, just what on earth did you do in your past life to have this much luck? He had landed a girl as amazing as Sui Yuan. In the ancient village of Furong, with its deeply traditional charm, Yang Jin was weaving through the crowd heading toward the grand waterfall that ran through the whole village. Along the way, plenty of female students with their light makeup and highly youthful aura stared at him. But I didn't care at all. Ever since I came out, to paint in the open air, the silhouette of Sui Yuan popped up in my mind from time to time. I felt as if I were being slowly poisoned. After counting the number of people in the group, I went back to my room. I pulled out my phone to update Teacher Lu, but first I saw the messages that Sui Yuan had sent me today. I found a great pizza place near the school. When you get back from your painting session, I'll take you to try it out. In the next second, I quickly typed, sorry, I just got back and hadn't seen your message. We'll definitely find some time to go check out this famous pizza place you're talking about. Hey, Yang Jin, are you still painting in the mangrove forest? No, right now I'm in Furong village. Is that the village hanging right over the waterfall? I heard the night scenery there is gorgeous. Could you take a photo for me to see? Faced with Sui Yuan's request, I stayed silent for a moment. Then I opened the window, chose a good angle, took a photo and sent it to her. That is so beautiful. Thanks, wow, I'd love to go see it in person. But anyway, you must be exhausted after a whole day. I won't bother you anymore. Get some good rest. Thanks. Good night, sleep tight. Ever since I had taken the photo, I hadn't moved away from the window. The cool little breeze from outside cleared my head a bit. These days, whether we spoke or not, Sui Yuan never missed sending me a good morning and a good night. Faced with those previous good nights, I didn't quite know what feeling was washing over me. I didn't want to or didn't dare to reply. But today, I suddenly felt like texting her back. Good night. Seeing in my reply, Sui Yuan let out a blissful little chuckle before placing her phone on the nightstand and falling asleep. The next day, Sui Yuan had her head in the clouds all day long, always resting her chin in her hands and smiling, foolishly, all by herself. And right after the last class, after a 3-hour drive, Sui Yuan finally arrived at the village. The orange sky had already turned completely dark. The priority was to find a place to sleep, then she would send him a message. If he wasn't asleep yet, she could ask him to hang out. On my end, I had just finished counting the people in the group and was back in my room. I was back in my room. Seeing the short good morning message she had sent me, at 6 a.m., a gentle smile appeared on my lips. At that moment, the sky, which until then had been dimly lit by the night lights of Furong village, suddenly turned dark under a pouring rain. The storm caught Sui. When by surprise, she took shelter under the eaves of a house, just barely big enough to shelter one person. Without even having the time to pull out anything, the rain was way too violent. In my room, I tossed and turned in my bed. I stood up and approached the window. I couldn't help but look at my phone. Constantly, I just couldn't sleep. Then, catching sight of the silhouette, tall and slender, taking shelter under the eaves in the distance. I was almost sure it was Sui Yuen. But how come she went out without an umbrella? And besides, it's super cold tonight. Sui Yuen took a breath of icy air. The familiar sound that reached her ears made her look up all of a sudden. How do you know I'm here? Sui Yuen's mind went blank. She stood frozen on the spot. What are you thinking? You're completely soaked. Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? I handed her my jacket. The raindrops still beating on the face of Sui Yuen gave her a look that was so touching. Sui Yuen snapped out of it. Sui Yuen took the jacket and put it on. A gentle warmth washed over her entire body. At that instant, she felt a tiny pang of resentment deep down, and she felt like venting everything to Yang Jin. Seeing that the rain was doubling in violence, why don't you come take shelter for a moment where I'm staying? I asked in a very calm tone. Yes, but of course. Sui Yuen nodded without hesitating for a single second. Being able to go to the place where Yang Jin was staying filled her with immense joy. Right after, as if she suddenly realized something, Sui Yuen smoothed her hair and asked with a nervous voice, no. I look really ugly right now, don't I? Hearing that, I was left speechless. I didn't expect this question at all. If you're going to keep standing there like an idiot, I'm leaving you behind. No, wait, no. Sui Yuen rushed under the umbrella. At the same moment, her hand moved toward the handle of the umbrella, and the next instant, our hands accidentally brushed against each other. Sui Yuen quickly withdrew her hand. She let out a nervous little chuckle and followed me toward the inn that was in the distance. Then Sui Yuen observed the room with eyes full of curiosity. Even though it was only my temporary lodging, the room was still very clean. I placed a chair in front of Sui Yuen, signaling her to sit down to rest a bit, and I also poured her a glass of hot water. Then Sui Yuen, all smiles, was about to sit down when she seemed to notice something. As if it clicked, she suddenly asked, Yang Jin, how come your clothes are all wet? I froze for a moment. Then I made up a lame excuse. When opening the umbrella, it accidentally turned and soaked my clothes. In reality, during the entire walk, I had tilted the umbrella to her side. That's why I was wet. You say the umbrella accidentally turned? Then explain to me why. Only the right side of your clothes is wet. Hearing that, I grabbed some paper tissues from the table and handed them to her, saying, dry your hair, turning the tables on her. Seeing that Sui Yuen didn't push it, deep down, she already had the answer. He was clearly afraid that I would get wet, and even if he didn't want to admit it, she wasn't going to force him. Then Sui Yuen took the tissues from my hand, pulled out several, and folded them together, beginning to wipe her long soaked hair. Seeing her thick collar and her delicate collarbones, my heart raced despite myself. I quickly looked away, pretending nothing was wrong. I can't reach my hair in the back. Could you help me? Then Sui Yuen, while drying herself suddenly, turned her head and asked boldly. Hearing this, my eyelids twitched slightly, and I couldn't help but look again at those delicate collarbones. I said, well, my clothes are wet. I'm going to go change first. She watched me as I looked for clothes, rummaging haphazardly through my suitcase, and asked enthusiastically, do you need some help? No, you keep drying yourself. Don't worry about me. I stopped her hastily. Then, I grabbed the first piece of clothing I found and dashed into the bathroom with it. Am I a monster or something? Why is he so afraid of me? It was truly the first time she had seen Yang Jin so flustered. She had to admit it was pretty cute. In the bathroom, after changing, I washed my face in hopes of regaining my composure. But barely had I stepped out of the bathroom when Sui, when immediately approached, circled around me and complimented me. These clothes make you look even handsomer than before. I took a soft breath, trying to maintain a very calm tone. It has stopped raining. I'll walk you out to find a place to sleep. Are you already planning to kick me out, Sui? Yuen pouted, pretending to be sad. I was dumbfounded upon hearing this. What do you mean kick you out? Are you planning to crash here and not leave? Is that an option? No, I can sleep on the floor. I sleep super quietly. Don't worry about it, she asked, full of hope. So are we going or not? If you don't leave, you'll really end up on the streets. Then, thank you for walking with me to look for a place to stay. As compensation, would you like to have breakfast together tomorrow? My treat. Due to the National Day holiday, the two of them searched for over half an hour before finally finding a hotel nearby that wasn't fully booked yet. As soon as Sui Yuen finished taking her bath, her first reaction was to run toward the couch and impatiently grab her phone to see if Yang Jin had sent her a message. Seeing that I had sent her a good night, Sui Yuen's crystalline pupils and her eyes flashed intensely all at once. If my memory serves me right, this was the second time. Once the excitement passed, she pouted again with regret. That was because he had already left her with a good night. I have so many things I wanted to talk to him about. After returning, I poured myself a glass of hot water to warm up. My clothes had stayed wet for so long. I hope he doesn't catch a cold. The next morning, an hour has already passed. Youngjin must already be awake. Sui Yuan, leaning against the door of the inn, pouted while counting on her fingers. At that moment, a boy comes down the stairs and heads straight towards Suiyin to ask her, "Are you Sui Yuan?" Yes, she observes him with perplexity. At first, she has no intention of replying to him, but out of politeness, she does so out of habit. The boy smiles and says, "I came to paint outdoors with Youngjin. Is he the one you're waiting for? I see you've been here for a good while. Do you want me to call him?" Yes, yes. Sui Yuan's eyes light up. Really? Yes, thank you so much, she says. You are really sweet, thanks. About a minute later, I appear on the stairs. Leaning against the railing but with a much paler face, Sui Yuan rushes toward me, reaching out her hand to touch my forehead, while asking with concern, "Are you sick?" "No." "Then let me check if you have a fever." "There's no need. Just a small cold," I said, making a gesture to stop her. But the very next second, I coughed heavily twice. Seeing this, Sui Yuan immediately grabbed me by the arm, and with a worried expression, she said, "Come on, I'll take you to the hospital to get checked out." I shook my head. "No, really, there's no need. Hey, I'm just going to go downstairs to get some cold medicine and I'll be fine." Hearing this, Sui Yuan said angrily, "Today you are going to the hospital with me. Otherwise, I won't leave your side for a single second." While speaking, she got a little closer to me. It was definitely the most daring thing she had done with me so far. Since I couldn't convince her, I had to give in. 30 minutes later, at the first hospital of the old town of Farong. "Sit down here for a moment. I'll go register you at the front desk first," she told me, smiling with a soft voice in the waiting room. Watching her walk away, a smile almost imperceptible crossed my face. When you're sick, it's not so bad to have someone by your side. When we got back to the inn, it was already past noon. After receiving 2 IV drips for the fever, I was feeling much better. I lay on the bed for a while, then I got up and pulled my sketchbook and pencils out of my bag. A short time later, a slender silhouette appeared on the paper. 10 minutes later, I heard the door open. I quickly hid the sketchbook under the pillow and put on an indifferent look, keeping my eyes glued to my phone. The next second, Sui Yuan walked in with a paper bag. "Come eat," she called out while opening the bag to pull out 2 takeout containers. "Since you're sick, the doctor said it's better to eat something light. So I got you some pumpkin porridge. Even if you don't really like it, eat it anyway." "Why are you eating that too? Why didn't you get something you actually wanted?" I asked, surprised. Am I not allowed to eat it? Perhaps? No, Sui Yuan widened her beautiful peach blossom eyes, pouting. In reality, she really wanted to try the sweet-scented osmanthus fish, but since Youngjin was sick and could only eat light food, she chose to eat the same thing as me for lunch. I didn't say anything. I lowered my head and took a spoonful of pumpkin porridge, bringing it to my mouth. Even though Sui Yuan didn't say it, I more or less guessed it. What a little idiot. A few minutes later, Sui Yuan cleaned up the leftover food and took the opportunity to pour me a glass of hot water. I took the glass and took a small sip, quietly. Today is National Day. There's quite an atmosphere outside. If you have nothing planned, you could go out for a walk. I struggled so hard to get all the way here, and you're already kicking me out. Sui Yuan's clear eyes widened, showing total disbelief. Am I just a mere tool to you? Is that it? Seeing that she had misinterpreted my intentions, I hurried to explain myself. It's just that I'm sleepy, I want to rest a bit. Then go to sleep, replied Sui, Wen with a radiant smile. She knew Youngjin wasn't that kind of guy, so she had absolutely no intention of leaving. My face suddenly dropped. Hey, come on, I just told her I wanted to sleep. Why isn't she leaving? Is she planning to watch me sleep or what? At that moment, Sui Yuan seemed to realize something and patted her chest. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you while you sleep. I blurted out with resignation, whatever you want, and I lay down on this bed. The urge to sleep that I had just felt had almost completely evaporated. With Youngjin's permission, Sui Yuan sat down on the chair, then she immersed herself in her phone. Even though in reality all of this was just a well-calculated strategy on her part. She did this to prevent him from being unable to fall asleep. If she kept staring at him, seeing her leaning on the table, completely absorbed in her phone. I gradually relaxed. My eyelids grew heavier and heavier, and very soon I fell asleep. An hour later, when I woke up, I saw Sui Yuan asleep right next to me. A gentle breeze blew in through the window, lifting a few strands of hair on her neck, giving her a beautifully messy charm. It was a kind of beauty that at first glance remained permanently engraved in your memory. I couldn't resist. I pulled out the sketchbook and the pencil that I was hiding under the pillow to immortalize this incredibly beautiful moment. Then I got out of bed, grabbed a jacket, and approached her. Fast asleep, she looked even more beautiful. I gently placed the jacket over her shoulders. At that moment, her long eyelashes twitched slightly, and within a few seconds, she opened her large, clear eyes. Waking up, Sui Yuan looked at Youngjin and said, still a bit dazed, Youngjin, you're already awake. Yeah. Youngjin's eyes betrayed a flash of nervousness. His body, which was slightly leaning forward, straightened up all at once. Then he let out a soft sigh and sat down at the table as if nothing happened. During those few seconds, Sui Yuan had also completely snapped out of her grogginess. first with her beautiful almond eyes. She glanced at the jacket covering her shoulders, but before she could even say a word, Youngjin took the initiative. Listen, you fell asleep at my place. If you catch a cold, you might think I passed my illness on to you, and I really wouldn't know how to explain it. Faced with Youngjin's completely lame excuse, Sui Yuan couldn't help but let out a muffled little chuckle. But what are you laughing at? I'm laughing because someone is clearly worried about me, but is looking for a bunch of excuses to justify it. Whatever. I wasn't talking about you. Wait, why are you leaving? The trash can is full. I'm going to take it down to the dumpster. But you're sick. I should be the one doing it right. Then Sui Yuan ran toward him, trying to grab the trash bag that Youngjin was holding in his hand. There's no need. Youngjin dodged her and kept walking toward the exit. After taking a nap, he was feeling much better. If he let Sui Yuan do everything for him, he was going to become completely useless. Seeing this, Sui Yuan pouted and followed right behind him. I'm just taking the trash down to the dumpster. Why are you following me? Youngjin was left utterly speechless. I'm going to throw something away too. Sui Yuan pulled out from her pants pocket a paper tissue and waved it under his nose. You're throwing away the trash, right? You're going to throw away a perfectly clean paper tissue that you just pulled out? Just throw it here. Youngjin opened the trash bag, but she shook her head. No, the trash that I brought myself. I want to throw it away myself. There's also a bit of trash in your bag. Why don't you give it to me so I can throw it away? Youngjin couldn't believe it. It was truly the first time he had ever seen someone fight to take out the trash. Usually, when two people are on duty at school, they always look for excuses to slip away and let the other person take out the trash. But with Sui Yuan, how come everything was so different? Whatever you want. If you want to keep going, go ahead. Youngjin shrugged his shoulders. Seeing Youngjin's resigned expression, Sui Yuan flashed a triumphant smile. You won't be able to escape me. Brother Youngjin, let's go. He approached the door, and just as he was about to open it, knocks suddenly resounded from the outside, followed by Teacher Lu's voice. Youngjin. Hello, Youngjin, are you in there? Yes. Youngjin's hand, which was about to open the door, froze in midair. Then he turned around abruptly and looked at Sui Yuan behind him. Who is it? Sui Yuan asked with curiosity. It's my teacher. Sui Yuan, hide in the bathroom first. Flash of nervousness crossed Youngjin's face. Why do I have to hide? Sui Yuan asked, perplexed. Youngjin looked at her, and seeing her gaze full of confusion, he was completely shocked. Right, why hide her? Aren't you afraid people will get the wrong idea? Without having the time to explain to Sui Yuan, Youngjin directly placed his hands on her shoulders and pushed her toward the bathroom. Hide well and don't say a word. Wait, Youngjin. Then, Sui Yuan's cheeks flushed slightly. What's wrong? In Youngjin's nervous pupils, a hint of perplexity appeared then. He followed the gaze of Sui Yuan, realizing that he had been in such a hurry that he had placed his hands on her shoulders. So he hastily withdrew them. I didn't do it on purpose, he said with embarrassment. Yes, I know. Sui Yuan nodded slightly. They looked at each other and both fell into silence. Teacher Lu's knocking at the door continued. Youngjin, are you there? Youngjin immediately looked away. He whispered one last sentence to Sui Yuan. Don't make the slightest noise. Okay. Then he went to open the door for Teacher Lu. Seeing the bathroom door close, Sui Yuan slightly raised the corner of her lips and murmured, why is he so nervous? On his end, Youngjin opened the door of the room, feigning a little surprise. He said, Teacher Lu, thank you. So, how come you're here? I heard Li Wen say that you looked sick, with a terribly pale face. So I came specifically to see you. Teacher Lu smiled and said, it's nothing. I took some medicine, I'm already feeling much better. Your complexion looks pretty good. You are not as pale as Li Wen described. Teacher Lu looked him up and down and nodded. Then suddenly he asked with curiosity, what were you doing? It took me a while calling you before you opened the door. Hearing that, a flash of awkwardness crossed Youngjin's pale face. I was sleeping a moment ago. He rubbed his eyes. Teacher, come on in. Did I wake you up? No, sorry. Apologized. Teacher Lu. Youngjin shook his head with indifference. Since it's nothing serious, I'll be going. Hello, Teacher Lu? You must be tired after coming all this way. Why? Don't you come in and sit down for a moment before leaving? That's fine, thank you. I had just heard that you were sick, so I came all this way in one go, and to be honest, I'm a bit exhausted. Youngjin, he had just invited him out of politeness. He didn't expect at all that Teacher Lu would actually accept. Seeing Teacher Lu's back as he entered the room, Youngjin gave himself a few light slaps on the mouth. Youngjin, those 2 sketches you drew a few days ago really caught the eye of the professor. As soon as he sat down, the teacher looked at Youngjin with deep admiration. The moment Youngjin handed over the works to him, she was really stunned. Those 2 paintings of the old village of Furong, whether in terms of composition, colors, lines, or the rendering of textures, one couldn't find any flaws in them. Teacher Lu really couldn't believe that such works could come from a high school girl. To be perfectly honest, even if he had painted them himself, the result would not have been as good. Youngjin replied with humility. That's all thanks to your excellent classes teacher. Teacher Lu, of course, knew his own worth, but he still added, flattered, "You are the best student I've ever had. As soon as I started giving you classes, I knew you had an incredible talent for art, and I wasn't mistaken." Youngjin noticed that Teacher Lu had no intention of leaving right away, so he found an excuse to go wash the cup. "Teacher Lu, you must be thirsty, right?" "No, I'll pour you a glass of water. Don't trouble yourself, thank you, no. It's really nothing. I don't mind." Youngjin grabbed a cup and quickly headed toward the bathroom. The exact moment he opened the door, he ran into Sui Yuan, both her hands leaning on the sink, her slender figure leaning slightly backward, her delicate face wearing a beautiful smile as she looked at him. "Is your teacher gone?" "He's gone, no, not yet. I'm going to have to ask you to hide in here for a little bit longer." Youngjin shook his head, holding his cup and stepped toward the sink. "Could you move aside a bit? Ask me nicely." Sui Yuan blurted out, crossing her arms, with a smug little look. "Sui Yuan." Youngjin looked her straight in the eyes and muttered in a low voice. Hearing his tone, Sui Yuan pouted and then reached out her small, fair hand to take this cup from Youngjin's hands. "No, I'll help you wash it." Before Youngjin could even react, the cup was already in her hands. Ultimately, he just whispered to her thanks, since the space in the bathroom was rather limited, and they were both standing close to the sink. Sui Yuan's curvy figure was exposed without the slightest restraint under Youngjin's gaze, especially when she leaned forward to wash the cup. The graceful curves of her body made Youngjin's heart beat much faster. Finally, Sui Yuan handed the washed cup back to Youngjin. Youngjin quickly looked away, pretending nothing happened, took the cup, and walked out of the bathroom. Afterwards, Teacher Lu regained his enthusiasm and chatted with Youngjin about art-related topics. After half an hour of small talk, Teacher Lu finally got ready to leave. Everything happened way too fast. Youngjin didn't even have time to react when Teacher Lu had already opened the bathroom door. "Hey!" Teacher Lu froze at that instant. Teacher Lu was completely stunned. What on earth is going on here? How come such a cute girl is hiding in Youngjin's bathroom, and besides, why does this pretty girl look so familiar? Why, she's none other than the most popular girl in Zhangchuan High School, #1. The one all the boys adore. Sometimes, when Teacher Lu was a bit bored, he also had a habit of glancing at the campus confession wall, and to kill time, he had a vague idea of the students who appeared the most frequently on that wall. To think he looks like such a well-behaved student, act like it's nothing, but he actually managed to capture the heart of the most coveted girl of all. After all, he was already 30 years old. So after a brief moment of surprise, Teacher Lu caught on to the situation. "Youngjin, we're almost at the college entrance exams. You should prioritize your studies." Teacher Lu, who suddenly no longer felt like using the bathroom, put on a slightly teasing look and patted Youngjin's shoulder. "Teacher Lu, Youngjin was about to explain something, but Teacher Lu interrupted him. "There are things your teacher doesn't need to tell you anymore. You should be able to understand them on your own." Youngjin was left standing there, speechless, watching the back of Teacher Lu as he walked away. "I stayed hidden for half an hour. My legs already hurt like crazy from standing so long. Youngjin, you're going to have to make it up to me." Sui Yuan pouted and walked out of the bathroom with her arms crossed. Youngjin looked at her from the corner of his eye. Then he took the trash bag and left the room. Seeing that, Youngjin didn't directly answer her question. Sui Yuan didn't take offense. On the contrary, seeing his slightly weary look, a faint smile appeared on her pale face. "Wait for me a moment. I also have something to throw away. Let's go together." She pulled out from her pants pocket the paper tissue she had just used and followed him. While going downstairs to throw away the trash, Youngjin ran into several art students who had just returned. Catching sight of Sui Yuan by Youngjin's side, they were left utterly speechless, clearly not expecting to see her there. Then, as if he had just understood something, he glared at Youngjin, mad with jealousy. The mere fact that Sui Yuan was there said it all. The goddess of their hearts for 3 years of high school, and now she was hanging out with him. To be honest, they were still a bit furious. But facing Youngjin's incredibly handsome face, they could only shut up. Damn it. How can he be so good looking? Youngjin was tired of explaining himself. After tossing the trash bag into the dumpster in front of the residence entrance, he returned to his room. As for Sui Yuan, passing by those art students, she smiled, greeted them with a very obvious intention, and asked them a question she already knew the answer to. "Are you guys Youngjin's classmates?" As if marking her territory. "Youngjin, are you afraid that others will get the wrong idea about our relationship?" With a glint of worry in her eyes, Sui Yuan feigned indifference. Youngjin had returned to his room. He had just taken out his drawing paper to secure it onto his easel, but the words from Sui Yuan left him completely petrified. The moment Teacher Lu knocked on the door, he had truly panicked inside. Even though nothing was happening with Sui Yuan, he didn't know why, but he still felt guilty. When crossing paths with those art students downstairs, his panic vanished. He even felt a small secret joy. It was really bizarre. He also found it hard to understand what was going on in his own head. That's why, faced with Sui Yuan's words, Youngjin didn't know how to respond at the moment. So he opted for silence and placed the drawing paper he held in his hand onto the easel. Seeing this, the clear eyes of Sui Yuan showed a hint of disappointment. Was Yang Jin afraid that others would get the wrong idea and believed there was something between them? So Yang Jin really only considered her as a friend, or maybe not even that. She felt a sharp pinch in her heart. I need to put in even more effort, right? Sui Yuan, don't give up. Compared to his past indifference, it's already much better. Now, Sui Yuan took a deep breath and forced a smile. What do you plan to draw? Why don't you draw me? I could serve as your model. Hearing this, Yang Jin suddenly remembered that he had drawn Sui Yuan secretly while she was sleeping, and he felt a bit guilty. No need, thanks. He added some paint to his palette and mixed the colors with his brush to cover up his own guilt. Faced with Yang Jin's refusal of her proposal, Sui Yuan wasn't surprised at all. Her smile didn't fade. She pulled up a chair and sat down next to him. Those girls at school spend all their time saying how magnificent your drawings are, but they only see the final result, right? After today, it turns out I'm not the first one to see you paint, even if I've already seen you at work. The girl who witnessed the whole process, Sui Yuan's delicate face dropped instantly. She originally thought she would be the very first girl to see Yang Jin paint from start to finish. As a result, poof, she had been way too optimistic. Missing out on a first place regarding Yang Jin, what a drag. Yang Jin looked at her with surprise, then replied, my mother? He didn't understand why Sui Yuan shifted so quickly from joy to sadness. Girls are truly bizarre. Ah, it's her. Then everything is fine, it's nothing. Sui Yuan sighed with relief. Family doesn't count. She was still the first girl. She rejoiced inwardly, then couldn't help but ask, and has any other girl seen you today? Yang Jin looked at the expectant expression of Sui Yuan and without being able to help himself. He felt like teasing her a bit, so he nodded slightly and said, yes, there is another one. Sui Yuan's face suddenly darkened. Yang Jin stared at her for a few seconds, then murmured, you. He took the brush, dipped it into the palette already prepared with colors, and began to paint on the paper. Hearing that, Sui Yuan stood frozen for a moment. Then a radiant smile illuminated her fair and delicate face. She was still the first one, sheer happiness. The night of October 3rd, Sui Yuan took the train back from Furong to Jiangchuan. Given that Yang Jin was sick, during the 3 days of the National Day holiday, Sui Yuan spent most of her time at his place, watching over him. Even though she couldn't enjoy the scenery of the old town of Furong, Sui Yuan didn't feel like she had missed out on anything. After all, she had gone to Furong village specifically for Yang Jin. Walking around the village or not didn't matter at all. So the main thing was to see Yang Jin, and if by any chance she could develop something between them, it was even better. In fact, during those 3 days, their relationship had become quite close. So much so that today, when it was time to catch the train, Yang Jin himself accompanied her personally to the station. At that moment, she almost didn't want to leave. She felt like she still had so many things to say to Yang Jin. But the train was about to leave, and besides, it was the very last train bound for Jiangchuan. She had no choice. He could only walk into the station to go through security control, since there were classes the next day. And at the moment of parting, she initially wanted to wrap Yang Jin in her arms, but she thought that might be too daring and that it might scare him. So she opted for a much gentler approach, giving him a simple wave of the hand to say goodbye. Early the next morning, Yang Jin, true to form, the very first thing he did, upon getting up, was to knock one by one on the bedroom doors of the art students. After waking them all up, Yang Jin went to have his breakfast at the little shop in the alleyway. But right before they left, the looks that those art students cast upon him were a bit bizarre. How should I put it? A bit vicious. Anyway, really weird. After 2 days of rest, Yang Jin's cold had finally disappeared. After eating porridge 2 days in a row, for today's breakfast, he chose without the slightest hesitation some wonton soup with fried dough sticks. Before, he never would have thought this combination could be so delicious. But today, it was truly too good, exceptionally good even. At that moment, Yang Jin's phone resting on the table began to vibrate. It was a message from Sui Yuan. Sui Yuan, image.jpg. Sui Yuan, what are you eating this morning? Yang Jin first opens the photo to take a look. Milk, a fried egg, a sandwich. A rather hearty breakfast. Yang Jin took a bite of a fried dough stick, then dipped it into his bowl of wonton soup. He took a photo and sent it right after. Sui Yuan replied instantly. Sui Yuan number, no. Your cold isn't even fully cured yet. How can you eat something as greasy as fried dough sticks, all accompanied by a super angry emoji? Reading the message she had just sent him, Yang Jin couldn't help but mutter under his breath, you forced me to eat porridge for 2 days. Now that my cold is gone, what's the problem if I eat a fried dough stick? He said that all while taking another big bite of his fried dough stick from the bowl with a slight air of defiance. You're not here next to me, so do you really think you can control me? Except that the very next second, the message that Sui Yuan sent made it so that Yang Jin, who was acting so cocky just before, suddenly got a huge wave of stress. Sui Yuan, no, maybe I should ask the teacher for a few days off to go take care of you. Yang Jin, no, my cold is already cured. Meanwhile, on the table, there was a glass of milk. Right at the moment, she brought it to her mouth and took a sip. She saw the message that Youngjin had sent. She couldn't help but crack a smile because right at the moment she was drinking her milk. While sending messages to Youngjin, the glass was slightly tilted. So much so that her plump, red lips had a bit of white liquid stuck on them, making her look even more provocative. Look how scared you got, Lulu. Before, when she spoke with Youngjin, he would always reply very slowly. He would take 1 or 2 minutes to reply to a message. But now, just because she sent a message saying she would ask for time off to go take care of him, he replied instantly, scared to death. Am I really that scary? At that instant, she suddenly felt like seeing the expression on Youngjin's face, and then she felt like seeing him in person. Right at that moment, Youngjin, who was in the middle of eating some knife-cut noodles, suddenly received a video call invitation from Sui Yuan. He froze. What does this mean? Why a video call all of a sudden? At first, Youngjin was a bit confused. They had never video called each other, but right after she sent a message saying body temperature 36.3 degrees Celsius, normal, Sui Yuan directly launched a video call to him. So what is this craziness about? Sui Yuan saw that Youngjin was taking a while to answer the video call, so she sent another message, Youngjin, let me see your complexion. That way I'll know if you're lying to me or not. Do I really need to lie to you? Youngjin found it a bit amusing, and therefore accepted the video call invitation from Sui Yuan. As soon as the video call connected, the first thing that Youngjin noticed was the white liquid still remaining on her plump, red lips, while Sui Yuan quickly scanned his entire face. Perhaps because it was the first time they were doing a video call, neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other in silence. What she has on her lips is milk, thought Youngjin. When can I call Youngjin as my boyfriend? Sui Yuan thought, why is she like a little girl? Even milk sticks to her lips. It's true that handsome guys always look good on camera. He's so handsome. Finally, it was Sui Yuan who took the initiative to speak. You really look good, you didn't lie to me. Do I need to lie to you? Said Youngjin, a bit speechless. The smile on her face didn't leave her. Stop laughing. Help me think. Wait, I'm not done looking at you yet. Sui Yuan, unconcerned, had directly said what she thought. Youngjin made a questioning face. After 2 seconds of silence, he pretended to be calm and explained, no, I wanted to see what you had for breakfast. Didn't I already show you a photo of it? Just earlier. Can't I see it live? Said Sui Yuan with a proud look. You're asking for way too much. I'm hanging up, bye. Without waiting for Sui Yuan to say anything, Youngjin directly cut the video call, and then he couldn't prevent the corners of his lips from lifting up. 2 seconds later, Sui Yuan sent him a message. Sui Yuan, why did you hang up? With hands on her hips, Sui Yuan pouted. Because I wanted to hang up, and that's all. Sui Yuan, is it that you have so little desire to see me? Youngjin, you're asking for too much. Am I going to eat you or something? Sui Yuan thought. Sui Yuan looked at the sticker of a cat in deep thought, and a bit annoyed, she tossed her phone onto the table, finished the rest of her milk in one gulp, and then murmured with a bit of confusion. Am I really being that obvious? No, I need to act a bit more distant. Sui Yuan, I'm leaving for school first. After Youngjin sent this message, Sui Yuan almost broke down. She was trying to act distant, but he was being even more distant. He just replied to her with an okay. She was hoping Youngjin would say something sweet like, be careful on the road, Sui. Yuan pouted, and right then, glancing at her phone, she realized it was already 6:30. Shoot, I gotta go. The next class, she hadn't even cleared the breakfast from the table. She grabbed her bag, slipped on her shoes in a flash, and dashed out of the house. She had been so absorbed in her chat with Youngjin that she completely lost track of time. Please let it not be the teacher on duty today. At the school entrance, I beg you. Over the next few days, Youngjin and Sui Yuan stayed in touch all the time on WeChat. But there was a catch. Youngjin found it a bit strange. Every time he sent an okay to show he agreed, or something like that, Sui Yuan, for one reason or another, would end up not replying to him anymore. In the afternoon, when classes ended, Sui Yuan took Liu Su by the arm. Under the stunned gazes of their male classmates, they walked out of the school. What a drag! On a small path lined with camphor trees. Sui Yuan rested her head on Liu Su's shoulder and pouted. What's wrong? Sui Yuan dumped him, asked Liu Su, reaching out her hand. She stroked her head. It's all because of Youngjin. Sui Yuan snuggled her head a bit closer to Liu Su's neck with a hint of annoyance. But aren't you guys getting along well? Every time you talk about Youngjin, you can't seem to hide your smile. Interrupted Liu Su. Sui Yuan let out a little groan and explained her problem. Youngjin doesn't talk much, you see. That's why I purposely look for topics to chat with him, and you know what? He just replies with, and okay. I have absolutely no idea what to say next to keep the conversation going. Hearing this, Liu Su couldn't help but burst out laughing. Oh man, what should I do? Asked Sui Yuan, looking a bit desperate. Youngjin is doing outdoor painting, so I only have WeChat to bond with him. I didn't expect Youngjin to be so terrible at making conversation. I'm dying of laughter. My poor Xiao Yuan. It's so hard on you. Then Liu Su stroked her hair, the smile never leaving her face. Liu Su, don't make fun of me. Help me find a solution instead. Quick. Let me think. Wait, let me think. Yo. Liu Su took a few seconds to swallow her urge to laugh, then rubbed her chin thoughtfully. I have an idea. Quick. What idea? Since he's incapable of holding a conversation, make it so that he's the one who comes to talk to you. But I'm always the one who has to approach him. Don't worry. I have a plan to make him come talk to you on his own. Declared Liu Su with a lot of Under Sui Yuan's expectant gaze, she slowly uttered two words, seduce him. In the dance studio, Sui Yuan, with her hair tied up in a bun, was wearing a small black tank top with straps that left her waist completely exposed, revealing her pale collarbones and well-defined abs to the open air. For the bottom, she had slipped into a pair of very tight dance leggings. She leaned back on the shiny floor, her long, shapely legs extending slightly to form a very elegant curve. It's pretty, but you're being way too well-behaved. Sui Yuan, why don't you try other poses like this one? Liu Su put down her phone and sat on the floor, with her legs tucked into a figure-8 shape. Seeing this, Sui Yuan blushed slightly. She hesitated for a moment, then murmured in a small voice, Wouldn't this be a bit too obvious? No, not at all. Guys love this. Liu Su approached Sui Yuan and pulled her strap down a bit. Sui Yuan quickly caught Liu Su's hand on her strap. She was afraid that if she didn't hold it, her strap would end up falling completely off her shoulder. I'm telling you, Xiao Yuan, if you don't show a little skin, how are you going to hook Yang Jin so he makes the first move? Liu Su pulled her hand back from Sui Yuan's white hand, then tugged at the strap again to make it look like it was slipping naturally down her shoulder. Sui Yuan, this isn't right. Liu Su ignored Sui Yuan, who was completely red with embarrassment, and tapped her long legs, signaling her to take the pose she had just demonstrated. Sui Yuan, murmured Sui Yuan. Finally, under Liu Su's trust me gaze, she sat down with her legs in a figure-8 shape. How embarrassing. Yes, just like that. Liu Su nodded her head, satisfied. She took a few steps back, grabbed her phone, and prepared to take a photo of her. Framed in the shot, Sui Yuan's face was completely red, and she tilted her head slightly with shyness. Her long figure-8 legs were tightly wrapped by her tight dance leggings, outlining a leg curve so tempting that anyone who saw it couldn't help but feel their heart race. If this photo were to leak, Liu Su was absolutely certain that guys would go completely crazy. What a waste for Yang Jin. You'd better not take this photo, murmured Liu Su. Hearing this, and especially the mention of Yang Jin, with an urgent look, she said, Sui Yuan, you'd better take the photo. Thanks, Liu Su, she pouted, flashing a fake smile, and remained completely tense. Are you stupid or what, Sui Yuan? What are you thinking? Just take the photo quickly. I really don't understand you. A moment ago, you categorically refused, and now not even a few seconds later, you've already changed your mind. Do you think Yang Jin will like this kind of thing? Well, yeah, absolutely. Even as a girl, I find this super attractive. And what if he thinks I'm an easy girl? What will I do? He wouldn't dare think that. After the dance class, Sui Yuan went home eagerly. Seeing the 5 or 6 new photos in her phone's album, her cheeks flushed with a light blush. Then she took a deep breath and posted a status on WeChat, visible only to Yang Jin. After finishing everything, she tossed her phone onto the sofa and ran to the bathroom to take a shower. On his side, Yang Jin, as usual, checked one by one if the team members were safely in their rooms. Passing by a double room, he heard some laughter inside. The sound of someone catching their breath loudly caught his attention. What are they up to in there? Yang Jin frowned and turned the doorknob. The 2 art students opened the bedroom door, nervously hiding the phone, while looking at Yang Jin with guilty faces. What are you guys doing? Asked Yang Jin, confused. Nothing. The 2 art students looked at each other. Seeing them like this, Yang Jin didn't say anything. He contentedly observed them in silence. Finally, the student with short, messy hair couldn't hold out any longer. He approached Yang Jin and, looking embarrassed, said, Hey, Yang Jin, do you like leg photos? Yang Jin looked like he didn't quite understand what he was saying. His face filled with confusion. Seeing this, the short-haired student smiled and pulled out the phone he had hidden behind his back. These cost me quite a bit of cash. Do you want some or not? Just say the word and I'll send you the link directly. Yang Jin looked at the phone with curiosity. Then, looking a bit uncomfortable, he said, I'd rather not look, and he turned around to leave. He said such good stuff and Yang Jin doesn't even want it. The short-haired student was a bit surprised. But wait, didn't you see Sui Yuan with Yang Jin the other day? Seeing how they looked at each other, it's for sure they're already together. I knew all along that Yang Jin couldn't resist Sui Yuan's persistence and that he'd end up falling at her feet. And it didn't fail. Plus, she is so beautiful, with an insane body. Only an idiot would push her away. The other art student got up from his bed, slapped the short-haired guy on the shoulder. and said with envy, I don't get it. Sue Yuan is so beautiful. Why does she try so hard with Yang Jin? Just because he's handsome or what? No, well, it's true he's handsome. If you were that handsome, you'd already have a girlfriend. And you wouldn't need to hide every night in the dorm to check out this kind of stuff. Screw off. Get out of here. The short-haired guy pushed the hand off his shoulder, then looked at the photos on the phone, without understanding. Such good stuff, and he doesn't even want it. What an idiot. Yang Jin already has Sui Yuan, the most beautiful girl on campus. Why would he need to look at the stuff that he can't have? Isn't it better to directly take action? Plus, Sui Yuan is a dancer. With all her flexibility, oh boy, the possibilities are endless. Stop it, you're making me jealous. Alright, today I'm going to check out 200 more photos to blow off some steam. There you go, you have some stuff in stock, let's watch it together. Those socks right there, it's the first time I've seen ones like that. They have a hole right in the middle. Meanwhile, when he returned to his room, he leaned against the door and let out a huge sigh of relief. Even though it had only been a quick glance, the super daring photos he had just seen remained burned into his mind. Who would have thought that girls' thighs with 2 or 3 special accessories could be so tempting? Yang Jin informed Lu Boyang that everyone was in their room, went into the bathroom to wash up, then lay down on the bed. Out of habit, he opened the chat history with Sui Yuan. Seeing that there was no new message, he scrolled up and read the previous conversations. It's weird, yeah? Usually around 10 o'clock, Sui Yuan would already start bombarding him with messages on WeChat. What happened today? It was already 10:30, and she had held back from sending him a single message. After rereading the discussions from the last few days and seeing that Sui Yuan had still not written to him, Yang Jin typed 2 words in the chat bar, "Are you there?" But at the moment of sending it, he erased it all again. Yang Jin tossed his phone onto the blanket, closed his eyes for a moment, then picked up his phone again. Sui Yuan still hadn't sent a single message. In reality, he already expected this result. After all, if there had been a message, the phone would have already rung. The only reason why he kept staring at the screen was out of pure hope and frustration. Why? What on earth could she be up to? For the very first time, Yang Jin felt a slight interest in Sui Yuan. He then went to check his WeChat Moments feed. The next instant, his bright pupils widened slightly. He clicked on the first photo, then on the second, and finally on the third. Yang Jin reviewed the post Sui Yuan published 10 minutes ago and took a deep breath. Although the photos in Sui Yuan's posts were not as explicit or eye-catching as those from that red and gold sky, he found them even more attractive. Especially those long legs, sublimated by the tight dance outfit, without revealing a single centimeter of thigh, but just as captivating. Yang Jin looked at them several times, and after seeing the photos in the post by Sui Yuan, he couldn't help but leave a like. Then, as if remembering something, he cancelled it. Sui Yuan was drying her long wet hair with a towel while stepping out of the bathroom. Right after her bath, her clean white face displayed a charming and slight flush. Add to that her long, shapely legs peeking out of her nightdress. It was impossible to look away. Sighing, Sui Yuan sat on the sofa, leaning back with 3 parts nervousness and 7 parts impatience, and grabbed her phone. The very next second, her hopeful look vanished. Instantly, she frowned her brows and said, pouting, "Is this method of Liu Su's really going to be effective?" Sui Yuan grabbed the cushion next to her, buried her face in it, shook it for a few seconds, then pushed it away. Or maybe Yang Jin hasn't even seen the moment I posted. Yes, that's surely it. I'll wait a bit longer, she consoled herself. Then she stood up, took her hairdryer and dried her long wet hair. 5 minutes later, and after having dried her hair, she sat back down on the sofa. Could it be that Yang Jin never checks moments? She pouted and murmured uncertainly. Sui Yuan spun her phone between her fingers, remaining attentive. If Yang Jin didn't check moments, there was no point in waiting any longer. What a mistake. What a massive mistake. I completely forgot about that detail. Sui Yuan waited a few more minutes, and seeing that Yang Jin still hadn't sent her a message, she sighed and said to herself, "It's truly too hard to make Yang Jin take the first move. I'd better just do what I usually do and go talk to him." Sui Yuan, hey Yang Jin. Sui Yuan, hey Yang Jin today. The math teacher targeted me again. I absolutely don't understand anything in math, that's clear. But he calls on me all the time to answer questions. Another day of being embarrassed. I completely lost face. On the other side, after seeing the moment posted by Sui Yuan, Yang Jin went to the restroom to wash his face twice. What does it mean for Sui Yuan to post this moment? She wants to show her daily life, but before she never posted any moments. Yang Jin racked his brain over the reasons why Sui Yuan would have posted this moment, while her image kept reappearing in his mind. At that moment, as if he had remembered something, his mood darkened suddenly, and he totally lost the desire to continue. Speculating on the purpose of this famous moment from Sui Yuan, a moment on WeChat. Everyone can see it, right? He didn't know why. But thinking that the photos from Sui Yuan's moment could be seen by other guys, he felt really uncomfortable. Just how many guy friends does she have on WeChat, for goodness sake? Yang Jin clenched his fist involuntarily. And right at that moment, a message popped up on his phone. It was from Sui Yuan. Youngjin opened it at lightning speed and glanced at it. After reading up the soul's rather long message, he basically replied, Sui Yuan, wouldn't it be more like, your class math teacher doesn't want to target you. He just thinks your math grades are really bad, and he wants to push you to improve. Seeing that the response arrived in barely a few seconds, the face of Sui Yuan displayed an expression like, I knew it. And she couldn't help but smile. Yes, exactly, and I didn't see that post, no. Sui Yuan, oh come on. Youngjin, it really seems like you've been way too overprotected. You haven't yet experienced the cruelty of this world. When I stood up and couldn't answer the question, I clearly saw the teacher snickering secretly on the platform. Are you sure, Sui Yuan? Yes, today that old guy didn't look like he was smiling, but I believe he was even smiling at the end. After responding very seriously with a few sentences at the beginning, Sui Yuan got distracted and Youngjin watched this. She found it super annoying. Then she typed with resentment. Sui Yuan, the teacher scolded me, it's so unfair. Youngjin at that moment wanted to ask Sui Yuan how many friends of the opposite sex she had on WeChat, but he didn't really know how to bring it up. So he responded evasively with a single word. Sui Yuan seeing this message, Sui Yuan, mad with rage, tossed her phone onto the sofa. I showed my discontent so obviously, and he doesn't even comfort me. And plus, he just replies with an, oh, what does that even mean? How am I supposed to continue the conversation after that? Sui Yuan tapped twice very hard on the cushion. And pouting she let out, I'm ignoring you. However, not even 2 minutes had passed before she rushed to unlock her phone. Right at that instant, a message from Yang Jin appeared. Yang Jin, can I ask you a question? Sui Yuan was very surprised. Yes, otherwise never mind. Yes, Sui Yuan was still in shock because Yang Jin had taken the initiative to ask her something. Seeing that he was suddenly backing out, she hurried to send a message to hold him back. After all, it was the very first time that Yang Jin made the first move to ask her a question. She was super curious to know what he wanted to ask her. Or maybe Yang Jin had finally woken up, and knowing that he didn't know at all how to hold a conversation, he had looked for a topic on his own initiative. You can ask me 100 questions if you want smiling emoji. Yang Jin took a deep breath and sent the excuse he had been preparing for quite a while and which seemed plausible to him. No. Sui Yuan, how many guys do you have in your contacts? On WeChat, no Professor Lu. I don't really know what he's up to. Asked me to do a small survey on the question of the proportion of male and female friends in the contact list of girls. Apparently, it's for a college buddy who has to do a project on it and needs this data. Sui Yuan was left speechless for a moment, clearly not expecting Yang Jin to ask her such a question. No, but if Yang Jin was starting to take the initiative to ask her questions, that would make her super happy. The topic of the proportion of guys and girls among her contacts, it's truly original. She stroked her white chin with a thoughtful look. Yang Jin, leaning against the headboard, was staring at his phone screen. After having wait for a few tens of seconds and seeing that Sui Yuan wasn't replying, he thought to himself that she found it fishy. So all nervous, he sent her, Yang Jin, if it bothers you, I'll ask other girls. Ask other girls. Sui Yuan stared at these last words insistently, almost muttering them through her teeth. So like that, Yang Jin plans to ask other girls. And plus, who does he intend to ask? How many girls has he added as friends? And with how many of them does he keep in touch or not? Sui Yuan, BFF. Sui Yuan tapped violently on her phone screen. Then furious, she sent a message. Sui Yuan, more than 100. Yang Jin at first secretly hoped that Sui Yuan would reply that she had none or just one or two, like blood brothers or something like that. But this scene on display basically left him stunned for a few seconds. And then his handsome pale face began to drop. More than 100 boys. She had added that many boys as friends. Then Yang Jin thought to himself that the photos Sui Yuan posted in her circle of friends would be seen by more than 100 boys. And he felt even worse. If he had known, he wouldn't have asked anything. Yang Jin tossed his phone onto the nightstand, gripped the headboard of the bed slightly, and then closed his eyes, trying to sleep to numb his discomfort. Seeing that, Yang Jin wasn't replying. Sui Yuan seemed to realize something, and a small smile brushed the corner of her lips. He's just jealous, even if it was only a guess. She was still very happy. However, she didn't want to go too far, fearing that Yang Jin might misinterpret the situation. So she hurried to send another message. Sui Yuan, just kidding. Sui Yuan, I only have 3 guy friends. Sui Yuan, one is my dad. The other is my little brother. Sui Yuan, and the last one. Sui Yuan is chatting with me right this second. That rascal Yang Jin, he couldn't stop thinking about Sui Yuan's post, telling himself they would be seen by more than 100 boys. He felt an inexplicable tightness in his chest. He couldn't sleep at all. Right at that moment, the phone on the nightstand lit up again. Seeing that familiar WeChat logo, Yang Jin felt a sudden urge to ignore it for a second. But after hesitating for a split second, he picked up his phone anyway. Surprise hit him as suddenly as a tornado. Reading Sui Yuan's message, Yang Jin was at first completely stunned, and then his heavy heart suddenly felt relieved. He felt an extraordinary sense of peace. The photos in Sui Yuan's moments were only seen by her family, so there was no problem at all. As long as no other boy saw them, Youngjin didn't realize yet the possessiveness he was already feeling for Sui Yuan, but he was rather absorbed by the conversation under the post that only he could see. Youngjin, thanks for the data. Youngjin, you aren't really. Youngjin used to communicating with girls, right? Youngjin, among all my contacts on WeChat, you are my only friend of the opposite sex. Thanks. In 2 days, Youngjin, I'll be done with my outdoor painting. Youngjin, in such a good mood, suddenly lost all desire to sleep. He wanted to sit up a bit and leaned against the headboard, then he typed a message and deleted it, repeating this process several times in a row, only to finally reply coldly with a single word. Youngjin, okay. Sui Yuan waited for a good while, and all she got was a ridiculous okay, furious. She grabbed her cushion again and gave it several punches. The poor cushion, which had barely regained its shape, found itself completely flattened again. So, what does he mean by that, Sui Yuan? After punching the cushion several times, tossed it to the other end of the sofa and pouted. Now she was certain Youngjin hadn't had any sudden enlightenment. He knew very well that he was terrible at making conversation, so she was the one bringing up topics to talk to him, but he didn't say anything. Sui Yuan, I'm sleepy. Sui Yuan, I'm sleepy. Sui Yuan, no, just kidding, I'm sleepy, I'm going to bed. Youngjin, upon learning that among Sui Yuan's male friends, outside of her family there was only him, felt much more cheerful without the slightest desire to sleep. Sui Yuan says she's sleepy. It's better if I don't disturb her. He stared at his phone screen, murmured to himself, then replied to her with great gentleness. Youngjin, if you're sleepy, get some rest early. See you, Sui. When let out, a nervous laugh jumped off the sofa and went to the fridge to grab a bottle of cold water. She had only said she was sleepy out of annoyance, and to show her irritation at his single-word response. How could Youngjin not understand? He really believed she wanted to sleep. At the same time, it's true. How could I hope that Youngjin would catch the double meaning of my words? With Youngjin, talking with hints absolutely does not work. Sui Yuan drank a sip of water and smiled slightly full of annoyance. Sui Yuan, cat rolling eyes emoji, does he think my concern is too shallow? Murmured Youngjin to himself with hesitation. The next second, he let out a small laugh at this cat emoji. Rolling its eyes is really way too cute. At that moment, Youngjin realized something. It seemed that every time Sui Yuan sent emojis, he always used cats. Does he also like cats? Cats? Before in the park near the sea, I had made a little shelter for a stray cat and often went to feed it. But it seems that the cleaning lady ended up dismantling the shelter. And that stray cat, I don't know where it went. I went back several times to the park near the sea, but I didn't see it again. I missed that cat a lot. Its little furry head and the feeling under my hand when I stroked it. After snapping out of it, Youngjin exceptionally took the initiative and sent a good night to Sui Yuan. Seeing this message, Sui Yuan drank in one go most of the remaining bottle of cold water, then tossed her phone onto the sofa and collapsed on it completely exhausted. Those photos, I took them specially for Youngjin, but he never checks moments. Still, I want him to see them. I can't have taken them for nothing. About 30 seconds later, Sui Yuan unsent her photos. Sui Yuan, sorry. Actually, I wanted to send them to my mom, so oops, my mistake, Sui Yuan. Didn't want today's photos to lose their value, nor did she want to look like she was making too much of a first move. So she used this trick. As for whether Youngjin had seen them or not, she wasn't worried at all, because she had calculated this timing perfectly. As long as Youngjin wasn't sleeping, he would be able to see them. After finishing the conversation, Youngjin didn't hurriedly leave the chat, but reread several times their message history. As a result, the photos that Sui Yuan had sent, he saw them right away. At first, he wondered if Sui Yuan simply wasn't sleepy, or why she was suddenly sending him photos meant for her mom. But then her little maneuver to withdraw the photos and justify herself made Youngjin understand one thing instantly. Sui Yuan hadn't posted for moments just to talk about her day, but specially so that he could see them. Youngjin didn't reply to Sui Yuan's message, but a slight smile formed on his face. Did he fall asleep? Sui Yuan said to herself, nervous and full of expectation. After staring at her phone for 2 or 3 minutes, she murmured in a hesitant tone. In mid-October at the Yancheng railway station, Sui Yuan's outfit today was of a very youthful style. A white baseball cap covered her tied-up long hair and also hid half of her face, but you could easily tell she must be gorgeous. She is incredibly beautiful. Even with her head down, her tall figure and radiant aura remained very eye-catching. Standing in the crowd, you noticed her at first glance. Why is Youngjin still not coming out? Sui Yuan, by beating around the bush to get info out of him, had finally managed to get the arrival time of Youngjin's return to Yancheng, fully determined to give him a surprise. Result: it has now been more than half an hour since his train arrival time passed, but she still didn't see a shadow of Youngjin, which was starting to make her a bit impatient. She thought to herself that she might have missed him. After all, even getting off the train and walking towards the station exit, it shouldn't take more than half an hour. On the other side, since the train was 10 minutes late, Yang Jinlu, Boyang, and the others were at that moment doing the queue at the exit to go through the security check. And that's how this beautiful outdoor painting trip came to an end. Oh damn, this sucks, and there's something even more annoying. Starting tomorrow, I have to go back to my daily routine from morning to night, every single day. Just kill me now. Man, I'm exhausted. Sui Yuan waited a few more minutes in the same spot, and seeing that she still couldn't find Yang Jin's silhouette, she silently pulled out her phone. It looks like Yang Jin has already left. Originally, she wanted to give him a surprise. She felt a slight disappointment deep down inside. Just as she was about to ask Yang Jin if he had left, it was as if an unknown force pushed her to look up, glancing in the direction of the exit. The moment she looked up, her exquisite face was completely exposed to the open air. Bright clear pupils, brows arched like willow leaves, long eyelashes trembling slightly. Her flawless white skin showed a slight, rosy blush, and her lips were as thin as rose petals, tender and tempting. Yang Jin, yes, she smiled, radiantly, and waved from afar. Phew, she hadn't missed him. Yang Jin had just walked out of the station. He should be pretty surprised to see her right. Bro, yeah bro, she thought happily to herself. Sui Yuan was truly dazzling. As soon as Yang Jin stepped out of the station, he saw her. At that moment, Yang Jin's feelings were a bit complex. There was surprise. There was amazement. For a moment, he stood completely frozen in place. His professor and classmates beside him were also petrified for a second. Lu Boyoung stared for a few seconds at the gorgeous girl standing in the distance, then shot Yang Jin a look that said, "Not bad at all, man." As for the expressions on the faces of the art students, they were much more complex. Smugness, surprise, disappointment, envy, jealousy, and so on all appeared on their faces. And at that exact moment, Sui Yuan had already run over from afar to stop right in front of Yang Jin. Surprised, she blinked, raised her small hand, and her beautiful fingers waved back and forth in an irregular way. For a brief moment, Yang Jin touched his nose. Today isn't the weekend, and Sui Yuan asked for permission to come to the station to pick him up. He really didn't expect that. It had been a while since she last saw Yang Jin, and Sui Yuan still had tons of things to tell him. But with all his classmates around staring at them, for a moment she didn't know what to say. So she looked at Yang Jin a bit embarrassed. Even though they were used to chatting on WeChat, Yang Jin was a total conversation killer. Sui Yuan simply couldn't keep the discussion going, so she had kept a lot of things to herself that she absolutely wanted to tell him. Since there were more than 30 people participating in this painting trip, Lu Boyoung had directly contacted the administration and arranged a school bus to pick them up. Initially, Yang Jin had also planned to head back on the school bus, but Sui Yuan's appearance made him change his mind. "Hello, Professor Lu. I'm not taking the school bus. I'll make my own way back." The strange looks from his classmates around him made Yang Jin a bit uncomfortable. That's what he whispered to Lu Boyoung, who was right next to him. "Go ahead, hello? Be careful on the road." Lu Boyoung had a funny little smile after hearing that. Yang Jin glanced at Sui Yuan and pushing his suitcase, he headed towards the taxi stand. Seeing this, Sui Yuan first gave a little wave goodbye to Yang Jin's professor and classmates, then, with a smile she could hardly hide, she caught up with Yang Jin. "Hey Yang Jin, you spent 3 or 4 hours sitting on the high-speed train. You must be exhausted, right? You must be exhausted. And if you keep going like that, I'm going back to take the school bus." Did I scare you? No, right? In the distance, the art students watched the two of them walk away from behind, laughing and joking, and they eventually fell silent bit by bit. At the taxi stand, given the incredible good looks of Yang Jin and Sui Yuan, the people waiting there shot them glances from time to time. "Hey, Yang Jin, do you remember I told you there's a super good pizza place near the school?" "I remember it more or less." "So would you like to go try it out this weekend?" "Hey." Sui Yuan stepped slightly closer, almost sticking to Yang Jin, and asked full of hope. As he caught the sweet scent emanating from her, Yang Jin's eyelid barely twitched. Then, feigning indifference, he replied, "I'll have to see if I have time." Sui Yuan dragged out her words, disappointed by this response from Yang Jin. This wasn't the same thing as a refusal. No, impossible. It was the very first time she had invited Yang Jin to eat off campus. It couldn't end in failure. "This pizza place is really delicious. Yancheng people don't lie to Yancheng people," affirmed Sui Yuan with the utmost sincerity, winking at Yang Jin. Seeing her like this, Yang Jin suddenly felt like laughing. He then repeated what he had just said. "I'll have to see if I have time." And just as the sparkling look in Sui Yuan's eyes was starting to fade, he added, "But it's very likely that I will." "Then I'll consider that a yes." She cast a look at the radiant smile illuminating her face, and on Yang Jin's handsome pale face, an almost imperceptible smile also appeared despite himself. At that instant, the taxi that Yang Jin had ordered slowly pulled up into the pickup zone. "Where are you sitting?" he asked after putting the suitcase in the trunk. Sui Yuan thought for a moment and, pointing to the rear door, said, "In the back." She had chosen to sit in the back with a little plan in mind. After all, if she sat in the passenger seat, she couldn't be next to Yang Jin. but sitting in the back wasn't a guarantee today. Young Jin nodded with understanding, then placed his hand on the front door handle, preparing to sit in the passenger seat. Seeing this, Sui Yuan quickly shouted, "Young Jin, what's the matter?" Young Jin, who was about to open the door, stopped and asked with a confused look. Sui Yuan smiled, super embarrassed. She couldn't directly say to Young Jin, "I want to sit with you." So, after thinking about it for a few seconds, she came up with a bogus excuse: the passenger seat isn't safe. Young Jin and the taxi driver both looked at her. Today, Sui Yuan felt clearly herself that her excuse was a bit far-fetched. So, after a brief moment of silence, she gave a more credible reason. "I saw a video recently, a short clip explaining that the passenger seat is for the girlfriend or the wife. Yeah, it would be a bit inappropriate for you to sit there, right?" Young Jin froze completely. The passenger seat is for the girlfriend or the wife. Where on earth had Sui Yuan seen a video like that? And besides the taxi driver, he must have seen tons of people sitting there. There's surely no such rule. Seeing Young Jin looking perplexed, Sui Yuan grabbed his arm and pulled him towards the back. "What are you just standing there for? Get in quick, get in quick." Once she got Young Jin into the car, Sui Yuan withdrew her hand from his arm with the utmost naturalness. "Driver, let's go, please." She called out towards the front. "Sui Yuan, can you explain to me why the passenger seat isn't safe?" asked Young Jin, completely lost. The driver also pricked up his ears. "Sui?" Yuan showed a slightly embarrassed look, then she took a deep breath and said what I said just now about the passenger seat, like how only the girlfriend or the wife can sit there. "Actually, that's not all." She took a pause and continued. "There was a girl who discovered that a strange woman was sitting in the passenger seat of her husband's car. And guess what? She brought a whole bunch of friends and they beat up her husband and the girl in question. Hey, Young Jin, tell me, is that passenger seat safe or not?" Sui Yuan lowered her voice on purpose, creating a creepy atmosphere. Yet hearing this, Young Jin let out an unusual laugh. "Hey, yeah." The driver also shook his head, dying of laughter. "Young Jin, I swear to you it's the truth." "I know, but what are you laughing at?" "No, don't tell me that the girl who was sitting in the passenger seat was the mistress." "I don't know about that. The point is that the passenger seat is dangerous," Sui Yuan quickly said. In reality, all of this was just an excuse she made up to get Young Jin to sit in the back. "Sui Yuan, do you think I'm a kid?" "No, so why do you ask that?" "I'm just curious. How could you be a kid? You're clearly a handsome guy." While talking, Sui Yuan kept leaning a bit closer towards Young Jin. At first, between the two, there was still the space of a seat. But with each sentence, she spoke, the distance shrank a bit more. At first, Young Jin hadn't noticed anything. By the time that sweet, pleasant, and familiar scent enveloped him, it was already too late. Sui Yuan had already moved very close. Their shoulders were separated by barely 2 centimeters, almost brushing against each other. Is she doing this on purpose? Young Jin's eyelid twitched slightly and he murmured to himself. Sui Yuan acted as if nothing was wrong. She continued to share, with a radiant smile, her school anecdotes with Young Jin. However, the attention of Young Jin at that moment was clearly not focused on her little stories, but rather on something else. As a result, his answers were quite vague, because today, Sui Yuan was wearing blue denim shorts, so her long, dazzlingly white legs were exposed without any modesty to Young Jin's view. Young Jin had no intention of checking out Sui Yuan's long, tempting legs, but they were just too close and his peripheral vision kept unconsciously straying towards that radiant whiteness. Since the last time he beat me, fair and square, 6-0, he doesn't want to play badminton with me anymore. So I urgently need a partner interested. In fact, tomorrow morning we have PE class. Sui Yuan's beautiful, charming eyes, a bit misty, looked out the window with a certain expectation. But after waiting for a few seconds, she received no reply. So she turned her head, perplexed, just as the taxi took a sharp turn. At that exact moment, Sui Yuan didn't have time to react and bumped hard into Young Jin. The next instant when she snapped out of it, her face was already pressed against Young Jin's leg. Young Jin was stunned. The tingling sensation on his thigh made him look down instinctively, and what he saw was a head of black, shiny and slightly disheveled hair. After a few seconds, seeing that Sui Yuan's head was still buried against his leg, slight awkwardness crossed Young Jin's face. "Sui Yuan, are you okay?" Hearing the voice right next to her ear, Sui Yuan hesitated for 2 seconds and hurriedly raised her head. Then she tucked a few stray strands of hair behind her ear and shook her head, blushing slightly. "It's nothing." The two looked at each other, not quite knowing what to think. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then they both resumed, turning their heads to look out the window. On the way to the house and the residence, the taxi was unusually quiet. Sui Yuan and Young Jin didn't say a word, but their racing heartbeats kept echoing continuously in their chests. 20 minutes later, Young Jin opened the car door, took his suitcase out of the trunk and prepared to enter the residential complex. However, at that exact moment, Sui Yuan also got out of the car. Young Jin remained slightly perplexed. For a split second, a thought popped up in his mind. Don't tell me she wants to come to my place? Of course, Sui Yuan naturally noticed the confusion in Young Jin's eyes, so she made up a random excuse and shrugging her shoulders with a smile. She said, I actually need to buy something around here. While talking, she took a discreet glance around the area, and at the same time, she memorized the name of the residential complex in her head. A flash of surprise crossed Yang Jin's face. Buy something. Yeah, just grabbing a few daily necessities, Sui Yuan said without changing her expression. There's no supermarket where he lives. An absurd thought crossed Yang Jin's mind. If you don't need anything else, I'm going to head off. Seeing that Yang Jin was only asking out of politeness and had no intention of continuing the conversation, she then forced a smile. In reality, she had gotten out of the car on purpose, with only two goals in mind. First, to find out where Yang Jin lived. Second, she wanted to spend more time with him. After all, they hadn't seen each other for more than 10 days. Just those short 30 minutes in the taxi were truly not enough. She wanted to stay longer, even without talking to each other. Just looking at him was enough for her. Barely had she taken 2 steps when Yang Jin's voice echoed near her ear. Sui Yuan. Sui Yuan froze in surprise, then she turned her head with a joyful surprise. What's the matter? Wait for me a second. I'll go with you, said Yang Jin in a feigned calm tone. Right at the moment when Sui Yuan had turned around to leave. Who knows why? His heart skipped a beat and he felt a bit uneasy. Sui Yuan had taken the day off anyway, especially to come pick him up at the station. If he didn't make the slightest gesture, it wouldn't seem very right. Yang Jin, are you free today? Sui Yuan's clear eyes shone with a radiant glow. Upon hearing him, and Yang Jin felt super happy inside, but his expression remained cold and indifferent. I'll leave my suitcase at the security post first. I'm not in a hurry. You can drop your suitcase off at your place and come back after. No problem, Sui Yuan said with a lot of consideration. No need. Yang Jin refused directly without even thinking about it. He said going in and coming out of the complex would take at least 10 minutes. He didn't want Sui went away too long. As for why he didn't even consider inviting her to his place, he was scared to death that his mother would catch him at that moment, bringing such a cute girl home. Yang Jin and Sui Yuan didn't really need to go buy primary necessities at the big supermarket. Yang Jin acted as an assistant for Sui Yuan, pushing the shopping cart through the snack aisles, where Sui Yuan looked to be in an excellent mood. She kept smiling the whole way. Every time she put a pack of snacks into the cart, she told Yang Jin how delicious it was, and seen from afar, they really looked like a young couple. The boy pushing the shopping cart, and the girl turning her head from time to time, smiling happily and joking with her boyfriend. Yang Jin, I swear to you this chocolate bar is super good. The last time I binged shows late at night, I ate 3 whole boxes of it. And these little yogurt and strawberry biscuits are too good as well. Suki? Yuan kept tossing them into the cart one after another. The snacks that she found delicious. No thanks. Then tilting her head slightly, she asked full of hope. Is there a snack you fancy, no? How about a drink you like? Sui Yuan grabbed a bottle of Sprite, pressed it against her cheek, and he shook his head to say no. Then on Sui Yuan's face a hint of disappointment appeared. As if she had spotted something else, she quickly grabbed a pack of almonds from the shelf of dried fruits. And dried fruits, faced with another refusal from Yang Jin, the eyebrows of Sui Yuan, which were always raised, finally furrowed. Man, how could it be that there was nothing Yang Jin liked after going all the way around? In contrast to Sui Yuan's enthusiasm, Yang Jin showed a certain fatigue. The last time he had gone to the shopping mall with his mother, he had sworn never to set foot in there again. He suspected that going to the supermarket would be just as exhausting. Looking at the shopping cart filled to the brim with snacks, Yang Jin really wanted to ask Sui Yuan, so this is what you call primary necessities. These are snacks, right? Just as she was pushing the cart towards the checkout counter,